Hi, boys and girls. Okay, so today we are going to talk about Adam and Eve in the garden. And I want you to take a look at this glass of water. You'll notice that the water is clean. When something is clean, it is pure. This is a glass of pure water, and this represents what it was like in the garden with Adam and Eve when there was harmony. And then watch what happens once I put some red food coloring in my glass, and I'm going to swirl it around. Should have got enough, but I didn't. You see that it changes. And we know that my glass of water is no longer clear and pure. And this is what sin does to our world. When it enters into our world, it taints it. And so Adam and Eve made a very bad choice to sin. They had everything that they could have ever wanted perfectly in the Garden of Eden. And yet they chose to disobey. And so we're going to talk about that choice and the consequences that followed. So in Genesis 2, 8 and 9 and 15 through 17, it says, "Now the Lord God had planted a garden in the east, in Eden, and there he put the man he had formed. The Lord God made all kinds of trees grow out of the ground, trees that were pleasing to the eye and good for food. In the middle of the garden were the tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil." Now, starting in 15, it says, "The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. And the Lord God commanded the man, 'You are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die.'" Now, we know that God had warned Adam and Eve of their punishment if they disobeyed him, and that was death. And if Adam and Eve had chose to obey God and they hadn't eaten from the fruit of the tree of good and evil, we know that there would have been a blessing that they could have enjoyed for the rest of their life, and that would have been harmony with God and creation. But we know from reading in Genesis 3, 1 through 6, that something else happened. "Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, 'Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden?' And the woman said to the serpent, 'We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, you must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die.' 'You will not certainly die,' the serpent said to the woman, 'for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil.' When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband, who was with her, and he ate it." So we know that Satan tempted Eve, and Eve chose to listen to Satan and disobey God. She thought that she would have wisdom like God. And then Adam, he ate the fruit too. And after Adam and Eve disobeyed God by eating the fruit, that's when disharmony was created in the Garden of Eden. Now in Genesis 3, 8 through 13, Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and they hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called to the man, "Where are you?" He answered, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." And he said, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from?" And the man said, "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree, and I ate it." Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate it." Adam and Eve's disobedience brought disharmony to each of the four relationships of creation. The relationship between themselves, between people and God, and between people and nature. Adam blamed Eve, and Eve blamed the serpent. Neither one of them took responsibility for choosing to obey God. And we know in Genesis 3:16-19, to the woman he said, "I will make your pains in childbearing very severe. With painful labor you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you." To Adam he said, "Because you listened to your wife and ate fruit from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat from it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you will eat food from it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food until you return to the ground, since from it you were taken, and dust you are, and to dust you will return." And then in verse 23, so the Lord God banished him from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he had been taken. And those were the consequences that Adam and Eve received because of their disobedience from God. We know that there's nothing that we can ever do that God doesn't already know about. And he knew that Adam and Eve weren't going to take responsibility, and they were playing the blame game. So Eve would have her own consequences, and Adam would too. And we know from other lessons, we've learned that God cursed the ground and made it hard for things to grow and produce, and that's because of the fall. And so we know that that disharmony in the garden started it all. I want you to go ahead and find the first sin. That's the name of the work page that you need to complete. Have mom and dad do it with you, or however you want to do it. And I hope you're having a wonderful day.